You probably ate 3 times today, maybe 4, at roughly the same hours you ate yesterday and the day before that. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, a snack somewhere in between. It felt normal because it is normal. To you. But to the body doing the eating, it is one of the strangest arrangements in the history of your species. And what your ancestors actually put in their mouths on any given day would not just surprise you, it would rewrite almost everything you think you know about food, hunger, and what your body was actually built to run on. Here is what nobody tells you about your diet. It was never designed, it was never planned. For most of human prehistory, there was no such thing as a meal. There was only the hunt, the find, and the eat. And the distance between those 3 things could be hours. It could be days. Your body was not built for abundance, it was built for the gap. The evidence for this is older than agriculture, older than cooking, older than fire. It is written into the architecture of your cells. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham spent decades studying the relationship between early humans and food. What he found repositioned eating not just as survival, but as the central organizing force of human evolution itself. His research showed that the moment your ancestors began processing food, crushing, fermenting, and eventually cooking it, everything changed. Brain size increased. Gut size shrank. The jaw became smaller. The body reallocated enormous amounts of energy away from digestion and toward cognition. You became smarter, Wrangham argued, not despite what you ate, but because of how you prepared it. But here is the part of that story that gets left out. The food itself was nothing like what you eat today. On a typical day in the Paleolithic, the era that covers roughly 99% of human existence, your ancestor woke up without a plan. There was no kitchen, there was no pantry, there was no scheduled meal. There was a landscape, and everything edible in it was hidden, seasonal, mobile, or both. The first thing they would have consumed was probably not food at all. Water, if they could find it. And then the search began. Researcher Amanda Henry, a paleoanthropologist at the Max Planck Institute, spent years analyzing the dental plaque of ancient human remains. What she found inside the calcified record of their teeth told a story that no artifact ever could. Your ancestors were eating a staggering variety of plant material, grasses, seeds, underground storage organs, the ancient ancestors of what we now call root vegetables, starchy tubers that required effort to find, effort to dig, and effort to process before they could be eaten. The variety was not incidental, it was the point. On a foraging day, your ancestor might walk between 5 and 15 miles, not for exercise, for food. Every calorie was earned through movement. The body was not sedentary between meals. The body was the machine that found the meals. What they actually ate in a single day depended almost entirely on where they were, what season it was, and how lucky they were. In a good season, near a riverbank, the day might include fish caught by hand or with a simple spear, freshwater mollusks, bird eggs found in low nests, a variety of leafy plants, and whatever fruit was ripe and reachable. The macronutrient breakdown of this day would look nothing like the plate your government recommends. It would be extraordinarily high in fiber, far higher than anything a modern person typically consumes. Anthropologist Jeff Leach, who spent time living alongside the Hadza of Tanzania, one of the last true hunter-gatherer groups on Earth, documented fiber intake of up to 100 grams per day. The modern Western average is around 15. Your microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria living in your gut, was shaped by that 100-gram world. It is currently living in a 15-gram one, and it is not thriving. The protein your ancestor ate was not the protein you buy wrapped in plastic. Wild game is fundamentally different from domesticated meat. It is leaner. It contains a different ratio of fatty acids. The omega-3 to omega-6 balance in wild animal tissue is close to 1:1. In factory-farmed meat, that ratio can be as skewed as 1:20. Your cardiovascular system evolved expecting one ratio. It is receiving the other. But here is where it gets stranger. The eating was not constant. The finding was not guaranteed. Researcher Herman Pontzer, an evolutionary biologist at Duke University, has spent years studying the metabolic profiles of modern hunter-gatherers, particularly the Hadza. What he found overturned one of the central assumptions of modern nutrition science. Hunter-gatherers do not burn more calories than sedentary Westerners. They burn roughly the same total energy per day, despite moving vastly more. The body, Pontzer found, is not a simple input-output machine. It is an adaptive system that redistributes energy based on demand. When the Hadza walk 15 miles, their bodies compensate by dialing down inflammation, immune activity, and reproductive hormones. All the background processes that quietly burn energy in a sedentary body. The result is the same daily caloric expenditure, achieved through a completely different internal economy. This means that the hunger your ancestor felt after a day of foraging was not simply the hunger of someone who had burned more. It was a different kind of hunger. A hunger that came with a body that had been metabolically optimized, anti-inflammatory, and precisely calibrated to the nutrition it was about to receive. Your hunger, after sitting at a desk for 8 hours, is not the same hunger. But your body does not know that. And then there were the days when nothing was found. This is the part of prehistoric eating that modern nutrition almost never addresses. Intermittent fasting has become a lifestyle trend, a diet protocol, a branded wellness product. But for your ancestors, it was simply Tuesday. The gap between eating was not chosen, it was imposed, and the body had a response to it that was not suffering. It was adaptation. When glucose runs low, the liver begins producing ketone bodies, alternative fuel molecules derived from stored fat. The brain, which normally runs almost exclusively on glucose, switches to this alternative fuel with remarkable efficiency. Cognitive clarity often increases during this transition, not decreases. Ancient humans operating in a fasted state were not impaired. In many cases, the evidence suggests they were sharper. The hunt required it. Neuroscientist Mark Mattson at the National Institute on Aging spent decades studying what fasting does to the brain. What he found was a cascade of cellular repair processes that only activate when food is absent. Autophagy, the process by which your cells break down and recycle damaged components, ramps up during fasting periods. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports the growth of new neurons, increases. The fasted state, Mattson's research showed, is not a state of deprivation. It is a state of active biological maintenance. Your body built these systems because they were necessary, because the gap was real, because your ancestors could not always find the food, and the ones who fell apart during the gap did not survive long enough to become your ancestors. The ones who did survive had bodies that used the gap, bodies that cleaned house during the fast, sharpened during the hunt, and feasted strategically when the food finally arrived. That feast was also nothing like your dinner. When a large animal was killed, a moment that might happen once every several days or longer, the entire group ate. And they ate an enormous amount, not because they were greedy, because the meat would not keep, because there was no refrigeration, no preservation beyond drying or smoking, and because the calories needed to be stored somewhere. So they were stored in the body, quickly, efficiently. The same fat storage mechanism that your doctor warns you about today was, for most of human history, a survival technology. Your body does not know that the food will still be there tomorrow. It has never known that. It learned, across hundreds of thousands of years, to eat as much as possible when food was available, because the gap was always coming. The gap is not coming anymore, but the instruction is still running. This is not a story about going back. It is not an argument for eating like a cave person or abandoning the extraordinary food security that modern civilization has built. It is something more precise than that. It is a recognition that the body sitting at your table tonight arrived with a set of deeply ancient instructions, written not by nutritionists or governments or food companies, but by the landscape your ancestors moved through for 200,000 years. The variety they ate fed a microbiome you are slowly starving. The gaps they endured built a cellular maintenance system you are never triggering. The wild protein they consumed shaped a cardiovascular profile you are quietly replacing with something it was never designed to process. You are not eating wrong because you are weak or undisciplined. You are eating in a world that arrived about 10,000 years ago, inside a body that has been here for 200,000. The mismatch is not your fault, but it is yours to understand. And the next time hunger finds you, real hunger, not boredom, not habit, not the clock telling you it is noon, notice what your body does with it. Notice how it sharpens, how the mind clears, how something ancient and efficient quietly comes online. That is not deprivation. That is the machine doing what it was built to do. You probably ate 3 times today, and somewhere inside the body that processed all of it, an older system is still waiting for the gap.